Is Lorcana the new Pokémon? Hell no! Roll the credits! Now that all the scalpies are gone, let's talk a little bit about the current state of Lorcana price-wise. Lorcana has laid dormant for a long time. The initial boost was there since the release, but since then it kinda stayed stable without getting too crazy because the Pokebros and all the dudes bros didn't want to really play it because they thought the game was for girls. You could play, product was available, the prices weren't too insane, but it all changed when the Fire Nation attacked. It all changed a little bit around Fabled. When Fabled came out, they introduced a new rarity, Iconic. Of course, the Iconics being the Mickey and the Minnie duo. On a side note, they really missed the chance to make the Iconics a couple or somewhat related to each other every single set after Fabled, but they just ignored it and printed random ones. For example, in Winterspell, they had Moana and Pocahontas. Okay. Initially, there was hype for it. Obviously, everybody liked it, and the cards were expensive because you couldn't pull them that frequently. But they weren't that insane. If I remember correctly, they started around 1,500 euros and then they stabilized around like 900 euros. So you could roughly buy them raw between 800 and 1,000 euros, which was still pretty expensive, but not as insane as today. But after the introduction of Wilds Unknown, things got a little bit out of hand, just because Toy Story entered the pictures. And suddenly all the Pokebros, Dude Bros, whoever was against Disney because it was for girls, saw that their childhood animated series got introduced. And suddenly there was more interest into the game. And as everybody has seen, Buzz Lightyear had its pretty intense run. Prices were going up and down for the PSA 10 Buzz Lightyear. Some reached even 15,000 if I remember correctly, which was bananas. But that started the initial hype for the Lorcana. Things went wild, everybody... haha. You see what I did there. People started buying out stores, local game stores, your grandma's house. Everybody got raided and nothing was available. But that being said, let's take a look at all of the Iconics currently, because you know the insanity about the Mickey Mouse. Currently standing at the lowest, the cheapest, is from booster box to sleeve at 5,000 euros. It is insane. The same with Minnie. Minnie is a little bit lower, but still going up, as you can see. The lowest being almost 4,000, but yeah, it's also nearing the 5,000 mark. Just because Fabled was criminally underprinted and it was bought out everywhere, so you cannot buy it anymore for decent prices anyways. After that, our boy Lightyear. As you can see, the raw value has subsided a little bit. It's hovering around the 2,500 mark. I don't think it's going anywhere soon. I think it's going to stabilize. It's going to keep its value. Again, don't take my word for it. This is just an estimation. But the more we move on from Wilds Unknown, the less product will be available to open. The more FOMO people will develop for this card, and it will remain at least 2,000, at least. Maybe it will rise. Who knows? Again, the same with these cards. Those were hovering around like 500 or something back in April. But as you can see, they also shot up to almost 2,000 euros because of the Pokebros, because of the Poke investors that came to Lorcana and just bought out everything. It is possible that we are currently looking at a manipulated market. We'll just have to wait and see, because as you can see, the price is going up and down all over the place, but still it has a rising trend. As long as the character is famous and everybody likes the character, the cards will perform. As you can see, Ariel is doing fine, Buzz doing very good. But as we look on the Attack on the Vine, the latest set, we have Belle and the Beast. It's still also hovering around 2,000, and the set just came out. The same with Lilo and Stitch. It's a downward spiral, of course, because the initial prices were just over the top. I think I saw one for 3,000 when the same set just came out. Now it's stabilizing around 1,500. But then again, Lilo and Stitch is not a super iconic character. People like him, but not as much as like your classics, Belle and the Beast, Ariel. You would argue Moana was pretty iconic, but it's more of a modern one. But then again, still around 1,500. Merida, as you know, is from Brave, and I think Brave doesn't have as much of a cult following as a Toy Story. Although the art is very beautiful, the card is still hovering around 1,300, something like that. Again, a very expensive price for a Lorcana card, don't get me wrong, but still, it's from Wilds Unknown, so you would think it's gonna be like expensive as Buzz, but it's just simply not. The same goes for Hades and Pocahontas. They're both still above 1,000, but they take the two last places. I would also argue that Pocahontas is a pretty iconic character, but I don't know why it's not performing as well as Ariel, for example. Maybe because it has more of an enchanted vibe instead of an iconic. I don't know. The same with Hades, also a very playable card, but still takes the last place. It's not that much of a difference from the other ones, don't get me wrong. What does it mean for Lorcana in the future? That is a good question. Because if you look on the Wilds Unknown cases, for example, they're at 650. It's not super insane. We'll have to reevaluate this in a couple of months, especially after Attack on the Vine calms down a little bit. That being said, I'm very excited that Lorcana finally gets the recognition it deserves. The more money, the more attention, the more players. That's why I'm excited for this, because it was a little bit scary for Lorcana at some point, but I think now things are starting to look up, unless everybody jumps to Palworld, of course. If you have any opinion on the market or on the current state of Lorcana, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. And if you like Lorcana in general and want to see more videos on that topic, feel free to subscribe. And of course, don't forget, if you see me in the park, throw some breadcrumbs. Alright, I'll see ya when I see ya.